good evening to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raph streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, as always, I have Neindorf with
Over
me.
here,
Neindorf, how
strange.
you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be back in. I think had a little vacation last weekend here, so I'm refreshed.
Good for you. Good for you getting some time away. Just in time too for the excitement that we have going on. So, it's been a long time since we've caught up. What anything you want to share about the vacation? You don't have to get into
Yeah,
specifics.
yeah, absolutely. Well, so honestly, part of it is a staycation here. I've been, the kids are going to start school here soon, and our childcare was kind of over, so I'm doing a little bit of staycation for part of it, just getting some projects done. Not having to worry about being into work on time. So part of it's just that, my time is my own time for a week and a half here, and I've been loving that, first of all.
Nice, nice. We've been doing house projects as always. I feel like anytime anyone checks in with me, I'm like, doing a new house project. Um, we had our driveway expanded, which is silly how much concrete costs,
Oh yeah.
more than digital land. Um, and we got some dirt to fill in the sides, and so I got 6 cubic yards of dirt, and I really had no reference in my mind for what 6 cubic yards of dirt is, but that's a full dump truck, and that
That's
was
a big amount.
on my driveway. But luckily, actually, we kind of we got very fortunate where the all the neighborhood kids came over and we had a couple wheelbarrows. There's a lot of child labor going on. The Gen
Nice.
ones were put to work, and we got a lot of it moved in just a couple days.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. All right. So let's kick it off with question of the day. All right. So here we go. On screen, I have what rhymes with sunrise Rolex.
uh, yeah, I was just a funny play on words, honestly. Uh, Surprise Codex, obviously.
Very good.
Boy,
Very
that
good.
one came in from left field.
All right. So their digital sleep aid is saying one mic is very low and one is very loud on my Fire Stick. Let me see. This is probably me. Uh, Let me try to get this my
Oh
volume
yeah,
boosted up a little
who's
bit
the
here.
loud one?
I yeah yeah it's we both know.
Yeah.
All right, so I try to boost my mic a little bit. Let's see if that works. Hopefully this is turning out a little better for you, digital sleep aid. Um, all right, so yeah, what rhymes with sunrise Rolex? Surprise Codex, right? Uh,
That's right.
I wasn't expecting this to come out. Were you?
No, not at all. I think if there was anything, it was going to be more. My thought was if something like that was going to be more balanced testing for PvP. I was thinking maybe it could happen, but no, they just jump out and all of a sudden here's the Summoner Codex just just dropped without any warning. That's pretty great.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I have not. I read it once. There's a lot of new words in here. It was filled with a large dictionary. It confused my small lizard brain, and I really got caught up with the flavor text. It was a lot of fun for me. Um, but I have like I'm not following this at all. Like basically, I think I'm gonna have to like go through this a couple times, and I really need Wowie and uh, Wowie to break this down. So I need to know what's a Wowie, what's a double Wowie, what's a triple Wowie, or double S,
Right.
triple S, and a Wowie. However he does it.
In me, I always love to go all the way down immediately to the capstone one. And you know, I like the
Yeah,
quote. Like I said, measure twice, cut once. It's like,
yeah,
boy, it seems like that's a way to build up tons of arcane and void power that are required just to, you know, power the above skills. So it's like
mm,
that one to me is crazy.
that one is really crazy. I think that's one thing that everyone's sleeping on is the capstone abilities. And just a quick reminder out there, That you can unlock at what level? I think it's like 35 for most
I think it
heroes.
is 35. So unfortunately, that's two level cap increases from now.
It's still a
So
little ways away from us. But that allows you to leverage that pure class ability, and so that's when you have a summoner. You can unlock that capstone ability. I think people are sleeping on those. You know, like when you think about, I would put them in the same category as like elite abilities or maybe even transcendent abilities. I think most of them are that good.
yeah, I agree. Some classes in particular, it seems like it's like, it depends on what their X and Y values turn out to be, whether it's valuable or it's just kind of a side effect more or less. But just reading the words here, yeah, a lot of talk in this one about banishment.
Yeah.
Um, it kind of reminds me of Seer. It's like a mix between Seer and Wizard, it seems like, because you got some things that are time oriented, but then you got lots of action points and void points build up. So it seems like some sort of a mixture between those two is my first take. But yeah, I agree with you. There's so much here. I haven't had a chance to, digest it yet.
Yeah. So I have a summoner that is about ready to level up, and I think we'll do this one on stream here.
Nice.
This is my favorite summoner that I have right now. So, um, let's go ahead and get a quest out of the way. I'll go do the intelligence quest. Um, but yeah, like what is? Were you surprised to see the? While I'm queuing this up, were you surprised to see Summoner come out next?
Yeah, I mean, part of me feels like I was kind of thinking, you know, Dark Knight Paladin would be where they would start, and I just think that's probably because it's numerically first unite. That's how I think, given how the under the hood numbers for these things work. But I do like to see another Magic class Codex out. I would be more excited to see a Magic user, actually in the combat engine integrated. But we can't have everything.
No, we'll ask for everything, but we can't always have what we want. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, a summoner just happened to be one of the boss heroes that I've summoned recently, so I was pretty stoked about that. Anytime things are pumping my bags, I'm always thrilled. Um, but we had been talking about this a little bit in chat and in guild chat, and that was like, what place do summoners play? Like, what role are they going to have? Are they going to summon weapons? Are they going to summon some kind of creature with a new feature we don't understand yet? And so I'm really excited that like this void power, we're going to start to learn about that, and I'm excited to dive into it and learn what it means.
And I know we had talked, I feel like offline in like lunch meetings or something about, is it going to be summoning weapons or something that you
Mm-hmm.
could kind of like bound a weapon to another hero? And I was really kind of excited after we kind of talked that through, like that, a summoner is going to be able to summon a badass sword for your Dark Knight in the front row. But it doesn't seem quite like that. It seems like their summoner is probably going to be in terms of just the animation that occurs, right?
Right.
These are still just arcane attacks essentially, but the summoning is just I gotta imagine there's just gonna be like a guy on screen that's gonna smack down the enemy and then
Yeah.
it'll just disappear.
Bringing forth the power too. So,
Right.
all right. We are definitely doing the. Oh, I don't have one. I need a greater stone or a greater crystal. Excuse me.
So while you were looking that up, I was going through, like we were talking about a main class, subclass that matches for summoner, and I thought I had one. I only have one that's legendary, and it's I was just looking at it here. Level 7, got a long way to go. So hey, we're in good shape.
That is a long ways to go.
Ooh, it's got exhaust and explosion though. Cool.
That's good. Yeah.
Forgot all about this hero.
Yeah. Have I showed you what this guy has?
No, you have not.
Double second life.
That's
This
what
is
I
the
was
double
hoping
second
for.
life guy. So
See, now it makes me want to read that codex even again. Is there
yeah,
any way you can like
abuse that.
insert? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, but we'll keep summoning away, and kind of my strategy, and I'll get into this in a little bit. Um, with how we're preparing for PvP. But let's talk about while the level up is queuing up. Let's talk about development that you've been working on, and then that'll tie me into what are you buying, what are you selling. But first, let's go with PvP site development. What are we working on, kind of behind the scenes for people? How do we get the folks excited?
Yeah, so one thing, it's just kind of a small thing, but trying to make sure that bug fixes are made in the combat prep page so that as people try to gear out their teams and try to select different things, you can kind of play around. I'm always working there trying to make some maybe squash some bugs on that. I also wanted to make it so that when you enter in heroes in combat prep and you hit query, the URL at the top will change essentially, and then you could, if you get a team set up, you could then share that URL to somebody else, and they could pull up your team. That was something that
Mm,
always bothered me is that you couldn't really save what you had entered, um, and so that's one small thing that I think will be really cool. Um, and then if you're a Sidekick user and you do hunts through Sidekick, there'll be a link that says you view team essentially. So from your hunt, excuse me, from your hunts configuration, you'll be able to jump right to that page. Part of my motivation is I'm lazy and I wanted to be able to jump and see who's who. So hence the feature. Um, Otherwise, yes, I think we talked a little bit last stream. You showed some of the data, but I'm starting to get into the the PVE hunt, data being
right.
migrated onto the site so that we can continue to provide that analysis. And then hopefully we'll cordon off PvP data when that's available to us. And we kind of, push the two to separate corners of the room and be like, hey, I want to look at, real PvP data versus how are people hunting boars. But yeah, so that stuff's all, we're starting to get under work there. And hopefully we'll, as the podcast over the next month or so go, we'll make steady progress.
Yeah, I just some update information for our listeners out there who are excited about that PvP data. So are we, and I've been annoyingly present, I'll call it, with Mr. Zipper and Bolon in our developer chat that we get as a part of the castle, and poking them probably once a week. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little longer. That all of the PvP testing that's going on next week is being done off chain. And so it's not something that we can watch for, and it's being done currently in their private database. So, maybe we can implore the community out there to help us be annoyingly present and ask for access to the combat database. I'd love to see all that juicy data as we start, collecting or start practicing PvP here next weekend. And we'll dive into that a whole bunch here in just a little bit. We're getting excited for it, and I can't wait to collect data. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to, watch the blockchain for the data that's happening next weekend.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the frustrating part, but I mean, I know we'll get there. And I think it's such a rough start that and it's not, I don't even know how they're gonna, how is some of this beta testing gonna play out? It might not be uh data you actually want to collect yet per se. So I
Yeah,
think that's all
that's
good
fair.
stuff. And we'll get there, no worries.
Yeah, so we've been told by Bolon that next Friday at I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern, so pretty early release, that we are going to get access to the web version. It's going to be here with the Blub Trainer, and there's going to be a feature, and I think it'll actually be like a beta website that we get access to, and our OXs are going to be whitelisted to run on that website, and we're going to be able to do some PvP testing, and it will be private matches only. And the other piece that I thought was interesting is all hero IDs are going to be available for PvP. And so I'm really going to be curious to see how the community has fun with this over the next couple weekends of play, where you could use anyone's level 20s out there. I kind of like feel a draw to use my own heroes. Like I feel it feels like cheating on my heroes to
Yes.
use someone else's. But that could be an interesting way if we wanted to like run some kind of like balanced tournament. Like, hey, here's 20 heroes you can select from, um, and just let people
Oh,
kind
that's
of,
clever.
like stay inside those bounds. Like that would be an interesting way to like run a tournament on like a Sunday or next Monday on our podcast.
Right, like, here's all the Codex classes, and here's three variants of each of them that are built for the different, you
Mm-hmm.
know, trajectories or paths, if you will. And then just, yeah, pick from there. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, we want to be here to support any tournaments that go on. We're willing to pony up some supplies. We still have a few rewards to give away that are back from the days of the 80th arcade. A couple greater stones that we're going to throw into some kind of tournament that happens this next weekend. So um, I think it probably won't be us doing all the organization legwork on this. We're doing a lot of other development behind this scenes, but we're happy to throw in some rewards for that. So any of those other listeners out there that are going to be participating, yeah, please let us know and go ahead and consider it, a donation to the prize pool.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, and we some of those items that DFK had provided us as kind of a thank you for putting that game out there, we had given away a vast majority of it. But like you said, we've got some items left, and that's kind of some of the stuff too that we give away on stream here. Just to, again, keep it rolling. They gave it to us for for the express purposes of providing it to the community for participation.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to maybe my favorite segment, just because we have a fun little. Well, I lost it now. My what are you buying section. So let me go to this here now.
Over here, stranger. Got something that might interest you.
All right, so with that, our good old fashioned merchant from Resident Evil, what are you buying, and what are you selling right now?
Oh yes. So I think I'm still selling Swift Thistle. I don't have any guys that I really care to spend the money to Stampot on, so I'm in the happy camp of selling those as I find them and just keeping that supply out there for those people who have a better use case for them.
All right, all right. Yeah, I think Swift Thistle's hot, and I would say that the funny part of that is that's kind of like the inverse of what's happening for me. I'm buying the Stampots, and I've been doing a few expeditions here and there, and I also bought a couple heroes that have a secondary class that I'm looking for, or subclass that I'm looking for. And I saw Just was talking about this. He has someone that he's going to dark summon today, tomorrow, I don't know, soon. Um, but I've been looking at trying to dark summon with some spell bows in that subclass.
Oh,
And
interesting.
as I've been thinking about building up monsters, the spell bows have a very strong dex and a decent luck subclass. And that's something that, I've been thinking about as I'm trying to get prepared for this. I need a couple other archers. And having, archers with that strong dex subclass development, that's what I'm going for right now. So, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that makes sense because even if what is it, 90% for Dex for spell balls, so you divide that by four when he gets pushed down to the subclass role. I mean, that's still sizable. That's the biggest
Yeah.
that you can get in game.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, at that point, you can even go probably regular crystal or regular stone and be in a pretty dang good spot if if you hit maybe even if you get throw a blue gene in there and you're golden.
Yeah. And the other class that I've been going for is Bard. And so
Oh, sure.
also strong with decently strong with Dex and very strong with Luck, the highest secondary luck class in the game.
Right.
So, combination of those two subclasses, I've been buying Stampots to level these heroes up, to Dark Summon with them, And then I've been buying a few heroes with that legendary heroes with that subclass of Bard or Spellbow. And I'm gonna smash them with an Archer. Hope they combine together, and we'll see how it turns out.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, honestly, because it's a numbers game, right? And it's all about give RNG the best chance it has. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've been doing a combination of doing some expeditions because they're so lightning fast that if you're really on it, you can kind of watch and level up. And then I've been doing also a whole bunch of stampots with ADFK Helper. And so I've been using our bot to just kind of slow roll a lot of my heroes, especially those that are miners and gardeners. And just, like kind of using those stampots to slowly get them leveled up over time. So a little combination of, some guys that I want to like just accelerate their growth slowly over time, and some guys that I really want to focus and get prepared for sooner than later.
That's interesting that you bring that up because I think that's something that I've kind of been thinking about on the side, and we talked a little bit about it the other day, is how do you optimally level up or stampot heroes? Like, what's the given hero XYZ? It's got this
Yeah.
profession and this, stat boost because of its main and subclass. What's the best way? What pets should you do? Are training quests still valid for a while in some way, shape, or form? Like I think those sorts of things, there's just so many choices actually for heroes nowadays, and you can hunt them obviously. But all that takes, time and effort unless you have something that can kind of help guide you through it. So I don't know, we've talked about that as another potential future development effort where we could kind of
Mm-hmm.
watch quests, use some of the data that we have from questing and kind of give people almost like a quest coach, if you will, and says, hey, we expect it to take you, I don't know, 10 days to get to level 2 and 20 days to get to level 3 if you're going to do it the old fashioned way. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's, I would say, I kind of, as we talked about this a little bit offline, um, I was a little more hesitant that something like that would be beneficial. But now, having tried to do it where I'm managing even like four heroes at a time, I feel like I'm totally guessing on like how many more stampots do I need in order to get this guy leveled up. And I feel like I've been, if I step away for a while, I'm inefficient, and then I'm wasting stampots all of a sudden because you can claim kind of midway through your expeditions. And then if you realize that you are at your level up, you can actually stop and you can cancel your expedition. So I wonder if there's actually a way that you don't have to calculate it, and like we could just automate like to watch a hero's experience levels, and then like once they achieve their experience, then it's like automatically those are canceled and then they kind of get re-enrolled, something like that. I don't know, what are your thoughts there?
Yes. Yeah, and I think I think the simple approach there would be yes, you have to. I guess the feed in for that is some sort of data though. You have to have an estimation of what you think
Right.
you're going to get
Right.
per quest XP, and that kind of feeds directly into what we were discussing. Like, if you don't have a data set that can estimate what your XP is going to be based on your pet, your profession, your skills, it's difficult to know. Because and there's RNG of course too, but if you're doing stam potting, it takes thousands of quests, it'll average itself out in the long run. I
Yeah.
think, it'll achieve average. Um, but I still think that data set could potentially be helpful. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something that we got to keep noodling on a little bit, I think.
I see just as a good idea here that I didn't even think of, and I've been kind of beating my head against the wall the hard way. He said, I found a use for my innate scavenger and fish, or for the forager and fisher pets.
Oh,
So much
sure.
better than training quests for my gardeners and miners. Like, I'm thinking, like, oh man, I've been beating my head against the wall. I should have done that earlier on. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, those especially those training the skill quests. in training quests early on are just brutal. The amount of stamp pots it takes to get a level up, they're awful.
Yeah, I've been kind of leaning towards, well, again, and this only works if they're a non-minor, right? Because the minors don't have level 10 profession quests. But for the other three, leaning towards putting the pets on it to get you the profession skill up faster has a better chance of rolling.
Yeah.
Just because you just get so much more XP in level 10 than you do in the regular that it seems like that's a no-brainer. But again, I don't have any data to prove it. That's just kind of my gut at the moment.
Yeah, that's where it might make sense to build something. Kind of hard to say.
So expeditions, I actually have yet to launch a single one. What do you feel overall?
Overall, I think that it's good for the ecosystem because it creates a an opportunity for those who, don't want to pay for an automated service, a way to at least kind of keep pace and not get lapped, I'll call it. Still, uh, a little clunky compared to what I'm used to with our bot in automation service, but it's kind of like you get what you pay for. And for a relatively low price of sending your heroes out on expeditions, um, they go start earning. And eventually, once they roll up their level up system into it, like, then that will get a lot more appealing to me. But to me, I love the customization that we have with our bot, and that's kind of what I've been hooked on for the last, I don't know, however long I've been running it, year and a half.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah. Yeah, time flies, doesn't it? Wow.
Sure does. So the last piece is, I've been focusing on trying to build some monsters, and I've found that as I've been doing boar hunts with some of the teams that I, have legendary plus heroes. I summoned with a greater stone. I've been leveling up with a greater crystal. It makes a absolute world of difference inside the hunts. Um, I have some teams here that like they give zero Fs about the boars. They just go to town, and even if the boars like if the mama boar does her rampage, it doesn't matter. Um, it's just absolutely wild. I have a team like this team in particular that I was operating at level 10 and fighting the chickens. Like
Nice.
it was just it was wild, and now they're up to level 12, so they can handle the chickens no problem. But it's pretty neat.
So yeah, essentially, are all three of these heroes like solid, or do you try to spread your monsters out more or less?
All three of these heroes are very solid. So yeah, they all have greater stones from two level 10 plus parents with the boost involved in it. So yeah, it's been,
Nice.
and it's
Yeah,
just wild.
I had unintentionally spread mine out just because as I had created them, I paired them with other teams as teams were kind of being formed, and I just kind of am hesitant to reorganize it because it just takes so much effort. But
Yeah,
I can definitely see even with one monster on a team, it's pretty easy compared to you almost never need a stampot or sorry, a mana potion or health vial at all. And that's usually only if you have a couple odd misses in a row and a couple crits or something.
right.
Um, but I would also say that I have a couple teams that have like maybe one rare and two legendaries that are just regular, not stoned or crystal. And even though their stats, you average like 8 to 9, maybe even closer to 10 stat points per level, that's still not easy sometimes with those heroes. And so I definitely hear what you're saying, and uh, it is amazing how focusing on one stat that is a primary stat for your class, it doesn't break it per se, but it gets really close to breaking it.
I think that's going to be essential for where PvP is going, and that's kind of why I'm bringing this up. Is I feel like the development of this, we're all a bunch of nerds trying to figure out how to best break this game, to try to do what you're saying. break it as much as we can. And I feel like we're going to be stacked up early on against other monsters that look just like those guys, except at level 20. And
Right.
I feel like there's going to be a reasonably high threshold for a competitive hero to get in, actually. And I didn't think this, like, I would say like 3 or 4 months ago when hunts or when the chicken hunts first started coming out. I was like, well, yeah, kind of anyone can do it. But seeing just how easy it is with some of my heroes with the boosted stats, I feel like there's going to be some kind of floor for really competitive play, especially at the high levels, that will be a bit of a barrier of entry. And it's kind of like, you got to come to town with a greater stone and greater crystals on your hero. Otherwise, your skill's only going to take you so far.
That's true. And if you just want to come in and get like greater stone, greater crystal level 20s, like that's going to cost you a super premium right now.
Right.
Um, and it's not unachievable. I mean, there's definitely you can go buy those things. It's just, you know, it's easier to get even a level 20 that's legendary, say, in a Codex hero is going to be expensive. Now all of a sudden you got to worry about what are the stats, or do you have to buy two of them and then dark summon them together? So then you've got double or triple the cost because you've got crystals to buy and stones to buy. So I hear you. I think building those heroes is honestly one of the things I am most excited for because I think it's just the way I like to play this kind of game. And we've talked about many times in the past, this game is great for that. It provides all those avenues for enjoyment.
Yeah. And it's like I love playing with the monsters, but I couldn't agree with you more that it's the process of building monster heroes that also is so tantalizing. It is just
Yes.
like, how do I keep making this hero slightly better, and then like combining these two heroes together, hoping that I get this unique combination of, you know, the rarity. I'm trying to get the genes to mutate to get maybe a class or to get a special ability, and it's just like all these things come together, and it's just like there's always that search for that perfect hero, and I think that's what they really nailed with this game more than anything else. Is it's still like, even in the bear market, it is still like almost impossible to still try to get that perfect hero.
Yeah, you're right. The they did a really good job of making those percentages individually attainable.
Right.
But once you start stacking them, those numbers get infinitesimal so quickly that I mean that's why what there's even if it's you're talking about like the Mythic Dread Knight, right? There's only a handful still around, and then you combine that with abilities, and it's like it's just crazy.
Right. It is crazy. So, anything else that you've been working on, kind of constructing as we play the game and as we prep for PvP?
Um, Trying to think. Honestly, I just have a batch of teams that right now that are in that like 12 to 14 level range. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get, one hunt a day in on them, kind of slowly taking my time. None of them are fantastic heroes necessarily. Maybe a few of them I really like. But the biggest point is I just want volume at level 20 at some point. I just don't have enough free time to hunt through more than like, say, six or so teams a day. Uh, One hunt. It's like that's just the amount of free time I have. So I am enjoying though, kind of getting to know those teams and like you play them a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Each group,
typically
yeah.
do the traditional teams. There's a priest, a knight, and a archer, or swap a warrior out somewhere. But yeah, honestly, I'm not building anything in particular. I'm just trying to get the floor of my, the core of these like say legendary heroes that I have that are Codex heroes up to the right level.
Yeah, and that's, I think they're going to be faced with that kind of unique challenge because already, you see this in lots of character building games like World of Warcraft. After the game was out for many years, the speed at which you could go from, level 0 to 80 or whatever the level cap was when I stopped playing a long time ago, it was a lot faster. And so there was like that kind of power creep of gaining that experience because they wanted people to get to that end game content even when they started over, or to attract new players and for them to not feel like they're left behind. And so I feel like we're in a really unique situation here where, 20 is like it's going to be like battling is happening at that level. But even with hunts right now, like it takes a long time to get to a
Oh yeah.
hero to level 20. Or, like you mentioned, really expensive to just get a hero at level 20. It's either time or money are those two things. And I can't believe I'm kind of saying it already, but it's like, do we need any kind of experience accelerators? And I do pose that question lightly because that kind of comes at the expense of the people that have been in the game this long, like ourselves, because we are grinding those heroes, we are leveling them up the very cost effective way, and those assets that we have, like if we've chosen to spend the moksha runes and level those heroes up, like even if you had like two rares that are level 20 and you mash them together, like you said before, like that's the equivalent of a greater stone almost. I mean, with a regular stone and all those boosts, like that's better than a greater stone at two level zero or level ones that are dark summoned
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
And so I kind of feel like we're in this like kind of slightly tricky predicament where, I want people that have been in the ecosystem for this long, uh, for their investment to be rewarded. But I also know for the long term health of this game that we need to be able to bring in new blood, new players, and we want a price point to be reasonably, attractive for them. And we want them to be able to build their own monsters and participate in this. And it can't take them 9 months to go from level 1 to 20.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And right now, I mean, I have some original Serendale heroes that are minors that are like
Left
at like
behind.
16
Left
or
behind. Yeah.
15. It's like it's just they're just nowhere, and like they level up once every like 9 months, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's like you've made it through the fast part of the growth curve too. Like
Yes.
the end of the final four levels are going to be so time consuming. I don't know.
Or maybe it is. Maybe we got to figure out how to hunt more non-codex heroes in the interim, and then that way, as new codexes come out, you can because it's there's a lot of classes that you can do. You can throw a non-codex hero into a hunt and do just fine.
Yeah.
Um, I have a greater deck stoned monk that I'm really enjoying because he's got such good decks that his damage is good and his accuracy is phenomenal. So then I throw a charger mask on him because after all, that's actually kind of like a cheap weapon if you think about it.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
and so then I'm having fun with that here. I mean, I think he's like level 12 or 13, and it's like his basic attacks are doing like 100 every single time,
Oh,
you
nice.
know. And so for a non-codex hero to do,
That's really good. Yeah. Oh, Eindorf, did we lose you? Neindorf, I'm afraid we lost you. So, well, we were closing up for the night, and we are going to probably end some things there. So, Code Green offering a unique idea here. I think it's been said that PvP will offer the most experience of all. Interesting thought for sure, as perhaps a solution to this challenge that we're posing. So, um, for those of you who are still hanging in there with us tonight, thank you for listening. And we're going to be going live sometime this next weekend, probably on Saturday night, for some PvP demonstrations. So please join us. We're going to be really excited to test out our heroes. We'll probably do a duel against each other, and we're hoping to support some kind of community-led tournament and give away some prizes there. So please tune in next weekend. Couldn't be more bullish about the prospect of the game right now. All things are looking up. We've been in this ecosystem now for almost 3 years. At least Neindorf and I have been, and we are at the advent of PvP, which I think is going to be the backbone of the future player economy system that is going to really create value inside the jewel token and make it so all these rewards that we're finding in PvE are worthwhile. And I think there's going to be a really positive trickle down economy that works out for the long term. So I'm looking forward to that, and I can't believe that we're here. It's been so long, and now it feels like it's so close. And that's really exciting. So make sure you tune in next weekend, and I'm sure there's going to be coverage starting on Friday night. So that's when the PvP fireworks are going to start. So make sure you tune in to your favorite streamers next weekend. And thank you for tuning in to ADFK. Have a good night.